Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome to another video. It is another Premier League prediction show that I've got in store for you today. Another round of Premier League fixtures is upon us. Big games affecting the entirety of the Premier League table. And of course, in this video is where I go through each and every single game to be played this weekend, giving my thoughts and my preview, and of course, most of all, my predictions on all of the games. But before we go any further, I would like to remind you all to please like the video and also subscribe if you're new. Both things will always and forever be greatly appreciated. And for now, let's get into the predictions. So first up, we come to Saturday's lunchtime kickoff, which will see West Ham host Newcastle at the London Stadium. It's an intriguing game, this one, to kick off the weekend's fixtures. Top four chasing West Ham seemingly are taking on relegation battling Newcastle. The Hammers slipped up a little bit in their last game against Leicester with that 2-2 draw, but did manage to obviously earn a point back very late on. Whilst Newcastle have won their last 3 games on the bounce and are out of the relegation zone, with things beginning to sort of look up for the Magpies in many respects. This game will be interesting though. It's a big game with recent form coming into play, and with these two teams obviously playing seemingly for different things, it makes for one difficult game to call. However, if I am going to give my prediction, whilst it definitely could go any which way, I'm going to call it down the middle. I'm going to call it down the middle and say that this game will end in a draw. And that is why my score prediction is 1-1 come the final whistle. The first of the 3 o'clock games, first Caesars come to the Emirates Stadium, where Arsenal will take on Brentford. When these two teams met right at the beginning of the season, it was Brentford who kicked off life in the Premier League within perfect fashion with a 2-0 victory over Mikel Arteta's side. Since then, of course, the Gunners have gone on to go into like some sort of top 4 battle, it seems, and are in a very good position to make that possible, whilst Brentford have battled for their current position in 14th. This does seem like a potential banana skin fixture though for the Gunners. We do know that occasionally when things start to look up for Arsenal, they tend to shoot themselves in the foot a little bit with their current position and everything seemingly going for them right now to really put together a strong case to finish within the top 4. But like I say, you wouldn't be surprised if the Bees managed to sting Mikel Arteta's side in this fixture. With that being said, whilst a draw is certainly possible here, I am going to give Arsenal the slight edge in this, and I'm going to say that the Gunners come out as 2-1 winners in this game. Next up, Steven Gerrard takes on one of his former managers in Roy Hodgson, as the two are set to reunite when Aston Villa host Watford on Saturday. It's a game that on paper Villa of course should be winning, although they stuttered against Newcastle last time out. Watford are on an 11 Premier League game losing winless streak, shall I say, rather than losing. And overall, Villa's start under Steven Gerrard, of course, has gone down very well with Villa and their fans, with a couple of exceptions here and there. I just see Villa having too much for Watford to handle, particularly in the final third. Villa should be cautious of Watford's own threats, of course, but ultimately Villa should be winning this game, and that is why I'm going for a 2-1 Villa win here. A battle down at the Amex Stadium is set to play out Saturday when Brighton take on Burnley. These two sides have the most draws in the Premier League this season. They will clash on Saturday afternoon, so really, when you think about it, there should only really be one outcome, right? A draw. Well, on paper, you'd probably give the edge to Brighton. You'd probably say a draw might be the overall likely result, given how these two teams have played out the majority of their campaign so far. But with Burnley fighting relegation, with Brighton wanting to respond after their defeat to Manchester United midweek, and with the two contrasting styles of play, it could actually make for a very interesting game down at the Amex Stadium. I want to give Brighton the win. I think it's likely that that will happen. A draw certainly is possible. I'm torn between the two results. I think Burnley will just about grind out a draw, I think Burnley will grind out a draw, and I'm going to say 1-1 come the final whistle. Next up, a London battle as Crystal Palace take on Chelsea at Selhurst Park. It's a return to Premier League action for Chelsea, who have since been away for a couple of weeks, becoming world champions in the Club World Cup, keeping up their impressive and great work under Thomas Tuchel, and obviously his record of winning trophies since he arrived at Stamford Bridge. And to top it off, of course, since being away, although they haven't seen Liverpool, who are above them, slip up, they haven't been dragged deeper into a top four battle, as the teams below them have obviously slipped up at various points during that 2-week break. And their return to the Premier League sees them face a difficult and tricky challenge when they take a trip to Selhurst Park to take on Crystal Palace, of course, who have proven to be difficult opposition for most teams throughout this season. However, the Blues have already beaten Patrick Vieira's side so far this campaign. Again, the slight chance of an upset here is there and evident to be seen. Palace can come out with something good from this game and get a good result here should they take their chances. But I'm actually going to give Chelsea the slight edge. I think riding off that high of being Club World Champions will help them here. I'm going to go for a 2-1 Blues victory in this game. The Reds take on the Canaries at Anfield as Liverpool return to Premier League action this week with the hosting of Norwich. Fresh off of their win midweek in the Champions League, Liverpool quickly refocus on the Premier League, of course, and Norwich are their next opponents. Liverpool's midweek encounter and trip to the San Siro against Inter will need to be taken into consideration for this game. Of course it will, but given Liverpool's strength and depth and the way that they should be used to now playing 2 to 3 games a week, the Reds should be winning this one and at the very least maintaining their pace with Manchester City and hoping that City slip up. That's also not given the fact that recent history has also been kind to Liverpool in this fixture, and with the form of the likes of Mohamed Salah and Trent Alexander-Arnold and so on and so forth, Liverpool should be coming out with all 3 points in this game. They shouldn't take this game for granted though. It always has the potential to be a banana skin victory fixture if obviously you take your eye off the ball in these kind of games. But I don't think there is much chance of that happening here. I think that Liverpool are on course to win this game, and I'm going to go with that result because I am going to say that this game will end 3-0 to Jurgen Klopp's side. We're off to St Mary's next for Southampton against Everton. It's going to be a difficult game, but an intriguing game to look at this one. The Saints have been pretty solid in recent weeks and months, probably defying a lot of people's expectations of them, including my own, given my prediction of them at the beginning of the season. Whilst for Everton, of course, they've started life under Frank Lampard. They got their first victory under their new manager last week against Leeds as they attempt to put some distance between themselves and the relegation zone. So both teams playing for different things. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens here. Of course, Southampton want to try and continue to boost their way up the table as high as they can, whilst Everton will of course want to see if they can build off of last week's victory. But like I say, overall makes for an intriguing game, but a very difficult and tricky game to call nonetheless. I think that this game could end any which way without any kind of shock value, if that makes sense. There's no kind of shocking result here unless obviously one team just doesn't turn up for whatever reason. And I guess my prediction would have to be a draw. I'm going to call it down the middle yet again, and I'm going to say that this game will end 2-2 come the final whistle. Next we move on to Sunday's games, and first up we're at Ellen Road for a huge clash because this is one filled with historic rivalry, of course. It is Leeds United taking on Manchester United on Sunday. It's a big game here at Ellen Road, of course. You don't need to tell you that. History will tell you that straight away. Leeds United may have their issues, but United have their own. But you'd imagine that United may take some confidence with them from, of course, that victory midweek against Brighton, and they should have the squad overall to beat Leeds here. A Leeds side that obviously have been hit heavily with injuries and other stuff going on with the club and all that. And just overall, United should be winning this game. If Leeds can maintain a battle for 90 minutes, if they can press Manchester United constantly, if they can take their chances when they arrive, then maybe, just maybe, they can put in a real battle here and maybe actually give Manchester United a run for their money. But I just don't think Leeds may have enough to stop the United threat, especially given their own problems and issues both on and off the pitch. So I just think a draw may be possible. They could get something from this game, Leeds, but I'm just going to give Manchester United, that is, the edge here and say that the Red Devils come out as 2-1 winners. For our penultimate game, we're at Molineux for Wolves against Leicester. A very intriguing game in store here. A solid defensive outlet in Wolves taking on a Leicester side so unpredictable and pretty underwhelming this season. It should make for an intriguing game ahead. Wolves are seemingly involved in the top 4 race. Their last victory last week against Tottenham really laid down a big statement for that kind of ambition. Another big win here against Leicester could further lay down that marker to the other teams around them to say that we are in this race as well, as they seem to be being a little bit overlooked in this kind of big race. It would certainly make it interesting if Wolves did that, but again, if Leicester were to come up with a victory, it may just damage Wolves' top 4 chances, whilst also steady the ship and relieve a little bit of the pressure on Brendan Rodgers currently. A draw is certainly possible. A draw is certainly possible in this game, but I actually do think that Wolves will manage to get the 3 points overall. I'm torn though. I'm torn between a 2-1 win to Wolves or a 1-0 win to Wolves. And I think if you had to push me for an answer, I think I'm leaning more towards Wolves keeping their great defensive record intact with another clean sheet in this game. And that is why I'm actually going to overall predict a 1-0 victory in favour of the home side. And finally, in what I believe to be the main event of this round of Premier League fixtures, the biggest game of the upcoming weekend's round of Premier League fixtures. We are at the Etihad Stadium for Manchester City taking on Tottenham. Should be a big and interesting game in store for us. As I'll always say whenever Manchester City play from now until the end of the season, I really hope whatever the opposition team they face comes up with a good game and hopefully takes points off of them. In this case, of course, it is Tottenham, so I'm not quite as optimistic, shall we say, that will happen. But in the past, and I know that this has been whenever Spurs have been at home, but in the past recent meetings, Spurs have given City a bit of food for thought whenever these two teams have clashed. Like I say, mainly when it's been at home, but if there is hope that Spurs can obviously take points off of Manchester City, then I hope it is going to be this weekend. It might be a game that they're not expected to win, but that could work into Tottenham's favour, where the pressure is pretty much off of them to go out and express themselves and maybe damage City, and maybe City take their eye off the ball. I'm kind of hoping and maybe clutching at straws in some people's opinions, but there is always the hope, and maybe something mad may happen on Saturday. Like I say, you'd expect that City will win here. You expect that City will maintain their strong standing at the top of the table, and in doing so, they would condemn Conte and Spurs to 4 league defeats on the bounce, something which to Antonio Conte in particular, a stat that is basically very much unheard of him going through. And you know, it would also damage Tottenham's top 4 chances as well with another loss here. So there's a lot riding on this game, more than just City's top of the table standing and their 9-point gap, shall we say. I want to say Spurs will get a good result. Of course, I want to say Spurs will get a good result, and maybe the stars will align, and maybe they will manage to get a good result in this game and take some points off City. However, let's be real, let's face it, the likely result here is going to be a City victory, and that's why I'm going 3-1 to Pep Guardiola's side. But of course, as I always say, these are just the thoughts, comments, opinions, predictions, whatever you want to call it, of this guy. I want to know what you guys think. What do you make of all the games that are coming up in this Premier League weekend? What do you make of the games? What are your own thoughts, your comments, but most of all, of course, your predictions on all the games that are coming up this weekend. Also, fantasy football managers, who do you see having a good week? Who do you see having a bad week? Who are you putting into your squad? Who are you taking out of your squad? So on and so forth. I'd love to know your thoughts, comments, opinions and predictions on that as well. But most of all, your predictions, of course, on all of the games that are coming up down below in the comment section, because I'm sure it will all make for interesting reading. Otherwise, hit that like button on the way up, enjoy the video, subscribe if you're new or want to see more content like this. Both things always and forever be greatly appreciated. And as always, thank you all so much for watching and listening. I've been Fletch, this has been another Premier League prediction show, and I will see and speak with you all again soon in another video.